Anybody says anything back there, arrest them.
Stop it!
Imagine staring into the eyes of the person who killed your loved one, just feet away, maybe smirking, maybe silent. Could you hold back the rage? These families couldn't. Today we're diving into 3 cases, 3 killers whose crimes shattered lives, sparked chaos in courtrooms, and left us questioning whether justice can ever heal the wounds of loss. These stories aren't just about crime, they're about the raw, human collision of pain and punishment.
Step off. Step off.
Not guilty! I'm not guilty! I'm not guilty, Steven!
Esteban Carpio, the interrogation room killer. April 16, 2005, Providence, Rhode Island. Esteban Carpio, 26, had already stabbed 85-year-old Madeline Gata outside her home, leaving her critically injured. Brought to Providence Police Headquarters for questioning, Carpio sat in a third-floor interview room with Detective Sergeant James L. Allen, 50, and another detective. When the second officer stepped out to fetch water, Carpio seized the moment. He overpowered Allen, grabbed the service weapon, and shot him twice in the chest. Allen, a 27-year veteran and father of 2 teenage daughters, collapsed, gasping his final words over the radio, "I think he's going to kill me. He's got my gun." Carpio then smashed through a window, jumping 3 stories to escape. He was recaptured blocks away after a violent struggle with officers, sustaining facial fractures and bruises in the process. At his June 2006 trial in Providence County Superior Court, Carpio's appearance stunned the courtroom. His swollen red face was encased in a clear plastic spit mask to prevent him from biting or spitting at anyone, a precaution after his arrest. His family erupted, screaming accusations of police brutality, claiming officers had beaten him in revenge for Ellen's death. Carpio's aunt went on local TV tearfully insisting, "Police brutality. He was mentally ill and needed help. He didn't deserve it." Providence Police Chief Dane Ezerman countered that the injuries came from Carpio's jump and resistance during recapture. An FBI probe cleared the officers, ruling no excessive force. Officers have the right to use whatever force necessary to subdue a subject. Carpio's insanity plea, claiming psychosis made him unable to appreciate his actions, fell flat. The jury convicted him of first-degree murder of a police officer, felony assault in Gata, and discharging a firearm during a crime of violence. Rhode Island's first-degree murder statute, R.I. General Laws S. 11-23-2, mandates life without parole for killing a police officer with additional terms for assault. Judge Robert D. Crowe sentenced Carpio to 2 consecutive life sentences, 1 without parole plus 20 years for assault. Carpio sat stoic at first, then broke into tears, sobbing an apology. "I cry every day for what I did, but the Ellen family, including his widow and daughters, saw no sincerity in a man who had shown calculated cunning. Ellen, son of a retired police captain, was a pillar of the force. His death left a void in Providence." Carpio's mask and family outburst turned the courtroom into a spectacle of denial and grief, highlighting how a routine interrogation became a badge of betrayal. Killing a police officer during custody demands swift, severe justice, but mental health claims often clash with evidence of intent. R.I. Gen Laws S. 11-23-2 governs first-degree murder of an officer requiring life without parole. Carpio stabbed Madeline Gata and murdered Detective James Ellen with his own gun during interrogation. Consequences: 2 consecutive life sentences, 1 without parole, plus 20 years for assault.
This all may be my fault, but at the end of the day, I'm a human being just like everyone else. I have a heart and it aches every day. The guilt is overwhelming.
Kayla Mendoza, the too drunk to care drunk driver. November 16, 2013. Coral Springs, Florida. Kayla Maria Mendoza, 20, had been out celebrating with co-workers at a Tijuana taxi bar in Fort Lauderdale, downing 2 massive fishbowl margaritas. Unlicensed to drive, she slid behind the wheel of her boyfriend's Hyundai Sonata anyway. At around 3:30 a.m., Mendoza veered into the wrong lane on the Sawgrass Expressway, speeding eastbound and westbound traffic at 80 to 96 miles an hour. She slammed head-on into a 2012 Toyota Camry carrying best friends Marisa Catronio, 21, and Caitlin Nicole Ferrante, 21. The impact crushed the Camry's engine into Catronio's seat, killing her instantly. Ferrante, the driver and eldest of 3 siblings, clung to life for 4 days before succumbing at Broward Health North. Mendoza shattered both her legs but survived, wheelchair-bound for over a year. Minutes before the crash, Mendoza had tweeted, "Too drunk to care," a boast aimed at her boyfriend, upset she was out drinking instead of home. The post went viral, fueling outrage. Charged with 2 counts each of DUI manslaughter while impaired and with unlawful blood alcohol level, hers measured .15, nearly twice the legal limit, plus vehicular homicide and driving without a license causing death. Mendoza faced up to 30 years, and in February 2015, she pleaded guilty to the 2 DUI manslaughter counts. At her May 4, 2015 sentencing in Broward County Circuit Court, the courtroom overflowed with grief. Catronio's cousin Donna Ramirez read a letter from her aunt. "I should be paying for a wedding, not a coffin." Ferrante's mother, Christian, sobbed. "You took everything I worked so hard to keep safe. My heart and soul are broken." Both families sued Mendoza, her boyfriend, T-Mobile, her employer, and the bar seeking accountability. Florida's DUI manslaughter statute, FLASTAT 782.017, treats impaired driving causing death as second-degree murder, punishable by up to 15 years per count. Judge John J. Hurley, unmoved by Mendoza's tears and apologies, "I'll live with this in my heart every day," imposed 24 years in prison, 6 years probation, and a lifetime driving ban. Mendoza wailed as the gavel fell, her remorse clashing with the family's unforgiving pain. Catronio worked in a pediatrician's office. Ferrante attended Palm Beach State College, 2 bright futures erased by one reckless night. The tweet became a symbol of indifference, turning Mendoza's courtroom breakdown into a cautionary tale of digital recklessness. Drunk driving isn't just a mistake, it's manslaughter, amplified when social media brags about the danger. LAFSTAT 782.071 defines DUI manslaughter as second-degree murder with up to 15 years per count. Mendoza drove drunk and wrong way at 80+ miles an hour, killing Marisa Catronio and Caitlin Ferrante. Consequences: 24 years in prison, 6 years probation, lifetime driving ban.
Anybody says anything back there, arrest them.
Stop it! Stop it, please!
Ellis Nelson Ortiz Nieves, June 13, 2017. Gaines Township, Michigan. Ellis Nelson Ortiz Nieves, 25, was left babysitting his girlfriend's 4-year-old son, Giovanni Mejias, and several other children under 11 in a rundown trailer. What started as discipline ended in horror. Deputies arrived to find Giovanni unresponsive on the kitchen floor, actively dying from massive internal bleeding caused by an abdominal tear inflicted by an adult's force, per autopsy. The boy, weighing just 30 pounds, also bore older wounds, 2 healing broken ribs, bruises shaped like belt buckles on his head, back, and buttocks, and cigarette burns. Ortiz Nieves, a habitual offender on parole, claimed innocence, but witnesses, including Giovanni's 10-year-old brother, told investigators Ortiz Nieves was responsible for ongoing severe violence. Ortiz Nieves' girlfriend, Sanja Hernandez, had a history with Child Protective Services since 2014, after THC exposure in an older child. She later blamed Ortiz Nieves, but was convicted of perjury and second-degree child abuse for lying at trial. In December 2017, a Kent County jury convicted Ortiz Nieves of felony murder and first-degree child abuse after just hours of deliberation. At his January 2018 sentencing, Judge Mark Trussock unleashed. "You're the lowest form of human life I've observed. You beat this little boy to death?" Detailing the horrors, "You put cigarettes out on this poor child." Trussock triggered Ortiz Nieves' rage. He lunged at deputies, shouting profanities and struggling wildly. "Anybody says anything back there?" He was forcibly removed, kicking and screaming as the gallery gasped. Michigan's felony murder statute, MCL 750.316, treats child abuse causing death as first-degree murder, mandating life without parole. Ortiz-Nieves received mandatory life for murder, plus 80 to 150 years for child abuse. Giovanni's grandmother, Nora Viriel Malero, marked his 5th birthday in court. "You tore our family apart." The boy, a giggling child who loved playing outside, was failed by a system that overlooked red flags. Ortiz-Nieves' outburst wasn't remorse, it was denial from a monster, as the judge branded him, turning sentencing into a raw confrontation with evil. Child abuse hidden as discipline escalates to murder. Vigilance from families and CPS is crucial. MCL 750.316 covers felony murder via child abuse, requiring life without parole. Ortiz-Nieves beat 4-year-old Giovanni Mejias to death, inflicting fatal abdominal trauma and prior burns and breaks. Consequences: mandatory life without parole for murder, plus 80 to 150 years for child abuse. 3 killers, 3 courtrooms, 3 punishments. Life sentences, decades in prison, and no path to freedom. Yet all share a core: crimes that broke lives, laws that defined them, and consequences that tried to balance justice with pain. These cases reveal more than verdicts. They show how grief, rage, and remorse collide in public view. A statute can define murder, but it cannot measure loss. A sentence can lock away a killer, but it can't bring back a loved one. Courtrooms are stages for human emotion, where killers' reactions, defiance, tears, or collapse made victims' pain. Statutes like RIS 11-23-2, FLAS 782.071, and MICH MCL 750.316 anchor justice and law. Murders in custody, drunk crashes, child beatings, deliberate acts that shattered lives. Consequences: life terms and 24-year sentences, yet no punishment undoes the grief.